In the following, you're going to learn things about our border with Mexico that you never knew. It is brought to you by American Border Patrol, a non-profit Arizona corporation that has been performing aerial surveys of the border for nearly 3 years. You haven't heard about these things because the mainstream media refused to report what American Border Patrol has learned. This is a blackout. Just watch. Illegal immigration across the Mexican border has been a serious problem for almost 70 years. This chart shows the apprehensions of illegal aliens at the border beginning in 1920. There were 1.6 million apprehensions in the year 2000. The problem became serious right after the outset of World War II and the creation of the Bracero program. In 1954, President Eisenhower deported more than 1 million illegal aliens, and the flood was halted for about 10 years. Eisenhower said it was best to stop people at the border before they became a problem. The 1965 immigration law acted as a new Bracero program, and the flood started again. 20 years later, the 1986 Immigration Reform and Control Act, or IRCA, did little to control the problem. Another attempt in 1996 failed as well. 10 years later, the American people began to demand real action.
Mr. Secretary, Julia Malone of Cox Newspapers. As you probably know, there are a lot of people who are quite skeptical that it's real this time. They've experienced the 1986 legislation, and there are some who are saying, show me first.
Well, I'm sympathetic with expressions of skepticism. I mean, I understand why people have those feelings of skepticism, because if you look back over the last 20 years, we haven't really done the job we need to do. The proof of the pudding is in the eating.
3 months after that Chertoff press conference, President Bush signed the Secure Fence Act of 2006. It specified the construction of at least 2 layers of reinforced fencing along 700 miles of the Mexican border. Some say the figure is really more than 800 miles. It depends on how you measure the curved lines of the border. Remembering Ronald Reagan's admonition, American Border Patrol launched Operation Beef, or Border Enforcement Evaluation First. If the government was going to beef up the border, American Border Patrol was going to ask, where's the beef? ABP acquired a Cessna 206 and equipped it to do aerial photography. Operation Beef started flying regular survey missions of the border and reporting on progress of fence construction.
Now we're at the start of Nogales Fence.
Nogales Fence, Mark.
Right at that National Guard.
Okay, 284.
A May 10, 2007 Operation Beef aerial survey reported that construction of the fence along the border had been halted at a major smuggling route, and that little progress was being made elsewhere. On May 17, 2007, AmericanPatrol.com reported that ABP found that DHS had completed only 2 miles of fence in accordance with the double-layered requirement. Later that day, Representative Ed Royce of California appeared on the Lou Dobbs Show.
Joining me now is Congressman Ed Royce, Republican of California.
And look how serious our federal government apparently is about this. We passed a bill for 850 miles of new fencing. We have 2 miles completed.
American Border Patrol was the only organization that was reporting on border fence progress, and it was the only possible source for the 2-mile figure quoted by Royce. We repeat, American Border Patrol was the only source for the 2-mile figure used by Royce. There is no question of this. The next day, the 2-mile fence figure was repeated in a Salt Lake Tribune op-ed piece by Rich Lowry of the National Review. Lowry didn't tell his readers where he got the 2-mile figure. The following month, June of 2007, a non-profit group ran a TV spot that got a lot of attention. It was called, Where's the Fence?
It certainly is a big border.
A very big border. Last year, Congress authorized 700 miles of fence along the southern border.
Where's the fence?
But so far, just a few miles have been built. Now, Congress and the President want to give amnesty to millions of illegal aliens instead of securing the border. Call the President and Congress today and give them a message.
Where's the fence?
Is it possible that Grassfire got the idea for Where's the Fence from Operation Beef's Where's the Beef? Is it possible that Grassfire learned of the failure of the government to build the fence from Operation Beef? If so, we are happy to have been of service for this excellent effort. The 2-mile fence story even made it onto the floor of the U.S. Senate.
And certainly there's one area in which we have much agreement, and that is securing our borders. Clearly, the American people don't have any confidence at all in the promises that this will be done when there's a track record of total failure. 2006, the Secure Fence Act, 700 miles of fencing to be built. Only 2 miles have been built.
Senator Dole's speech, citing the failure of the DHS, helped defeat the amnesty bill. We call this the 2-mile miracle. When Operation Beef reported that DHS had completed only 2 miles of double-layered fence, it changed the immigration debate and headed off the amnesty bill. It is a miracle because the 2-mile figure seemed to appear out of nowhere, and it was never challenged. Operation Beef continued to survey the border
Mark, we got another National Guard.
and post its findings online, and it continued to influence the debate. On September 11, 2007, Representative Duncan Hunter appeared on the O'Reilly Factor. He reported that President Bush was surprised at the lack of progress in border fence construction. Hunter said 18 miles of fence had been built. This was very close to Operation Beef's numbers. On September 24th, American Border Patrol's Operation Beef flew another mission along the border. As it approached the Goldwater bombing range, Pilot Spencer made this observation.
Mark, start, resume a run 0938. This should be very interesting. Because if it is going to make any significant additions to the fence, it would have to be here. Mark, 0939. Good thing, 3465. Yeah, put actually pedestrian barrier there.
It turns out he was right. DHS had quickly added more than 40 miles of new fence by attaching mesh panels to existing vehicle barriers. Somebody had lighted a fire under the Department of Homeland Security. This instant fencing turned out to be vulnerable to desert winds, however. Still, the number was far short of 150 miles of new fencing claimed by the DHS, and it was not double-layered as required by the Secure Fence Act, but they would soon take care of that requirement. On December 7th, DHS issued a press release claiming that there were 284 miles of fence in place on the border. This was not true. On December 19th, an amendment was added to an omnibus bill in the Senate giving DHS total discretion over the construction of the border fence. Some said Hutchinson had gutted the fence. If so, she did it on false information from the Department of Homeland Security. 2007 came to an end with the future of the border fence in doubt. In 2007, Operation Beef played a major role in bringing the truth about the border to the attention of members of Congress, even though the mainstream media blacked it out. It changed the debate and played a major role in defeating the amnesty bill. In 2008, Operation Beef would continue to survey the border and document how the Department of Homeland Security would use its new powers over fence construction. What happened in 2008 will be shown in Part 2 of Blackout, the border cover-up. We call it a virtual failure.